By the way, really, really quick, and I'll just jump in. The president of Washington State addressed these same concerns, Brandon, where they said, listen, like, we can't make certain moves because financially it makes no sense for us. So we're not going to go to the Atlantic Coast Conference. Financially, if the Big East wanted them, the Big Ten wanted them, which they don't, like, maybe that might make sense. But there is a financial obligation if you're going from Pullman, Washington to the Carolinas, for example. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. And what people are forgetting is that this is more than just football. This is more than just football.
Would they potentially go the independent route then for a school like Stanford, or what is the next possible move?
So that was talked about. I mean, that was sort of, again, people are throwing out things at this point. But, if you did Notre Dame and Army and Navy and Cal and BYU, or, just try to put a bunch of like independent schools together, could that work? Potentially, potentially. But um, the bigger story here and the thing that will have to get sorted out, but these colleges are so quick, this is a quick cash grab they didn't really have time to think. So I mean, the idea that you're going to extrapolate or remove football from your program, that's going to take too long. So like, let's just grab the cash and figure it out. 100%, they have to remove football from the other sports, or maybe football and hoops, but you cannot include you go down the list of Olympic sports, whether that's gymnastics or water polo or volleyball or whatever. When you start doing this geographically, and again, the TV dollars won't cover it, and by the way, they have to find a way to make it work, and it's not going to happen anytime soon because some of these TV deals are long term deals. But I don't know how much it's going to cost some of these programs to, again, send volleyball, soccer, lacrosse, and all that across the country for a 2-game set that won't be broadcasted on TV.
And by the way, I wanted to add one thing before. I know Adrian has a quick point, but look, it's this is a disgrace Pac-12 wise to because of how dominant the other sports have been, like swimming, volleyball, like you just mentioned, Arash. Like the Pac-12 is king when it comes to that. Like they've been, I mean, especially Stanford, probably don't they have the most championships of any school in history if you go top to bottom of the Division 1 sports? I believe they do.
Well, it's
And
UCLA,
oh, it is
Stanford,
it?
and USC.
Yeah,
Well,
but
I
it's
don't know. I mean, they're,
Pac-12.
they're kind of in the exact Pac-12.
Exactly. It's formerly Pac-12. Now UCLA is going to the Big Ten. It's just so sad to see all the other sports, and I know they don't make money like football and basketball, but I mean, there's how the dominance of like Katie Ledecky went to Stanford, right? Like all these great athletes that are in sports that don't make as much money in baseball too. We don't talk about baseball a lot too. The Pac-12 is a powerhouse in baseball. Oregon State had won a national title just a
Yeah.
few years ago, right? Like just they've been there. Stanford national titles, like UCLA national titles. Now UCLA is leaving, right? Like those 4 teams left in the Pac-12 can still play baseball at an elite level too, and of course the other sports that don't make as much money. So that's why it's like Mountain West. Like the Mountain West cannot compete baseball wise with Oregon State, right? Like that's something you have to consider too. Can they do the other sports? Can they even compete in swimming and all that stuff with Stanford? Like no. So that these are all types of things you need to consider. Like, and it's a
So
screwed up process.
with the Mountain West, real quick, what the problem there is, I think, twofold. It's not just the competition. It's not just that if you're Stanford and Cal, you don't view them the same way. It's the TV money. Again, all of this is happening because of TV money. So if you looked at the former deal for the Pac-12 and it was anywhere from 20, 25 million, maybe 30, the Mountain West is a fraction of that. So that is why that is the last resort. The two schools that will be left out in the cold, at least short term, while we figure all this out, is Washington State and Oregon State, because those aren't, quite frankly, no disrespect. They know the position that they're in. They're not signature programs, and they're located in locations that are not big, tourist draws. So no one's like trying to go out to Pullman, Washington. No one's trying to go out to Corvallis. So they were always attached to their bigger schools. Those schools are gone, of course.